Hello, friends. It is time for reading. And reading today, we're going to do a study because tomorrow we have a test in reading. And we talked about, wow, we have a test in math too. It might be a good study day for you. So we're studying reading, and the reading page today isn't one we can study, but rather the reading text. So let me come back. And books have purposes. They do different things. We talked about bold words and italicized words to help us find information quickly in a text. Um, and then we've also talked about vocabulary. Vocabulary are important words that you find in a text. And you see, you've got vocabulary words right here. So we're going to go over all of those, and we're going to talk about all of these questions, and we're going to study up for the test that we'll have tomorrow on these. Okay? Um, Yesterday, we talked about some of the things from The Boy and the Dyke, or the last time we were together. And number one says, what characters did you meet at the beginning of the story? And who is the main character? Well, let's come back to here. What characters did you meet at the beginning of the story? Think about this story and who was in the story. We met the boy. Do you remember what his name was? Hunter, you remember what his name was? Jan. His name was Jan. And who else was in the story at the beginning? Anybody remember? KJ, you remember who you saw or who you heard of in the story? He was going to his grandmother's house, and he had a very distinct word for grandmother there in Holland. You remember the word? It was Oma. Oma, we met. Mom was also in it. She gave him some bread to take to Oma. Oma was his beloved grandmother, and she told him a lot of stories. So that's probably the story, the character, but the main character of the story was, of course, Jan. That the main character is the person who the story is most about. Okay. So now we've got number two, and it says, what problem did Jan see on the way to Oma's house? And Rylan, if you think back in the text, can you think what the problem was? He was walking along, minding his own business, and all of a sudden, something wasn't right. Do you remember what it was? He looked down, noticed he was stepping in water, and it hadn't been raining, so how did the water get there? And when he looked at the dike, he noticed that there was a small hole in it. Okay? So he saw that problem. And Jan tried to solve the problem. He tried a couple of things to solve the problem. What was the first thing he did to try to solve that problem? Kylie, do you remember what he did? He put something in that dike to try to stop the water. Do you remember what it was? It was a stick. He stuck a stick in there, but the water just pushed it right back out. So then he tried to put something else in there. Do you remember what that was, Brianna? What the second thing it was that he tried to put in there? He put a rock in there, and the rock didn't work either, did it? Because the water just pushed it back out. Number three says, was Jan able to fix the leaking dike? And this comes back to Preston. Preston, did he get it fixed? Did he solve the problem? I don't think he fixed it forever, but he did solve the problem. And how did he do that, Preston? He stuck his finger in there, do you remember? And he held it in there. He held it even when the water tried to push it out. He held it in there so it wouldn't come out. So that's how we tried to fix it. And why did he need to fix it? What could have happened had the leak kept going? Come back to Hunter. Do you remember why? What happens if there's a small hole and the water keeps pushing on it? It's going to make a bigger hole, bigger hole, and bigger hole, and finally it will just collapse and break through. So that's why he was trying to solve the problem. Number four said, how is the problem of the leaking dike solved at the end of the story. Remember, he had to stand there overnight. He stood there overnight, but could he really stay there forever? No, that's not really possible. So what did he do? He just stood there until someone came to fix it. And Jeff, do you remember who came to fix the dike? What happened? Who he called? He shouted, help, help, and two people on a cart, right? The father and a boy came on the cart, and then they went and got who? They got Oma. And did Oma fix it? No. She called some people to come and fix it, some workmen, and they got it fixed. So that's how it was solved at the end. And what lesson can you learn from this story? I'm going to leave that one up to you. What lesson can you learn from this story? Maybe always be aware of your surroundings, look around, notice things, be patient. Any of those could be a takeaway from the story. Okay, now let's go down to the vocabulary words because I know for sure that you're going to see these on that test tomorrow. Right? The first word right here is flood. Can you spell that with me? F-L-O-O-D. Flood. What is a flood? Austin, do you know what a flood is? A flood is when the water comes in and is very high, higher than normal, and it washes some things away and causes some problems. That's a flood. And then our next one right here, Jamia, you help me out with this word? This word is gravel. Let's all spell gravel. G-R-A-V-E-L. Gravel. Well, now what is gravel? KJ, do you know what gravel is? Gravel are small rocks that you find laying, sometimes they're parts of driveways, sometimes they make a path. I have some out near my hot tub to keep the ground from getting flooded. So gravel are small rocks, and they're used for many different things. Next word is rumbled. This word rumbled right here, and that brings us back to Rylan. Rylan, do you know what the word rumbled means? Rumbled is kind of a noise, boom, 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 almost like the noise thunder makes when it comes in from far away. And you kind of hear it roll across the sky. It's kind of a rumbling sound. If you have a cart or a heavy wagon and it's rolling along and it's kind of heavy, it's going to make kind of a boom, 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 boom sound. That's rumble. That's what it means to rumble. And then the last word, Kylie, brings us back to Kylie, is the word village. What is a village, Kylie? Village. The boy lives in a village. A village is a small town with lots of little houses kind of close together so they can all help each other. It's a village. And in this story, our boy lived in a village. So there we go. Good job. That's your study for today. Give you a clue. These words, study them hard. They're going to be seen tomorrow. All right? I'll see you next class for, what is it, spelling? Okay. See you then. Bye-bye.